Welcome back to the Body-Led Business Podcast. I'm Melissa, and today we're talking about something that most of you are dismissing as just another health thing, when it's actually the missing piece to your business strategy. We're talking about nourishment, true cell-fueling nourishment. Not a diet, not a protocol to follow, not another thing to optimize or strategize. We're talking about the literal foundation that allows you to show up powerfully in your business, to scale without burning out, and to access the wisdom in your body that creates the business you actually want. So let's dig in. Okay, my friends, welcome back to today's podcast. I'm so excited to talk about this. If you've been with me for a while, you know that I started out as just nutrition. We just talked about food. And then we brought in hormones, then we brought in digestion, and then we brought in nervous system. And today we're going back to the basics of nourishment and how it relates to your business capacity. So, what is true nourishment? True nourishment to me, I think we can all define this in our own way, but I want you to listen to my perspective today because this isn't my first rodeo. And I have seen a lot in coaching and my experience and my education on what works well and what true nourishment can really do for a body. And it's easy to jump to extremes here and want to just neutralize food and say food is fuel. I think that in the past, like years ago, I would have said food is fuel, nourishment. That's what true nourishment is. And it is fuel. We're not dismissing that, but it is really far more than that. It's the energetic message to all areas of our body and to the cells and like the granular parts of our physical body. It's not just the fulfillment of hunger. It's the actual creating of who we are. And if we're creating businesses, it's also the creation of your business. We are made out of the energy of food. And when you think about this, you'll want to think more intentionally about what you're actually putting into your body to create a body that displays who you are and who you want to be in this world and how you want to show up. So when we say food is fuel, what we really want there is the disconnection from the emotion that we have with food. And that's not the intent. We as humans are going to have emotions towards food. Whenever we try to take emotions out, we will always get stuck and we will go in the same cycle over and over again. Because emotions actually should exist within food. That's how we've evolved and how we've gotten to where we are. Because at one point, it served us really well to have an emotional connection to food. It created family, it created cultures, it created friendships in our tribal days. It literally kept us safe to have emotion connection to food. But then the food industry came in and everything evolved to be very highly processed, highly addictive, and highly sugared. And now the emotional component has added in chemistry within our bodies to create blood sugar instability, to where we can no longer hear what our body's actually telling us because we're adding foods into our body that don't allow us to hear authentically and intuitively to what our body is asking for and what it needs. Because we as female entrepreneurs and high achieving women have learned from people who are very hard workers, we have really dismissed that the body is the foundation to your business growth and capacity to be able to scale. We have learned a lot from the masculine in our culture. And the masculine really does well at putting the head down, working very hard, putting the blinders on and keep pushing through. And this isn't to say that the masculine energy is bad. We should have masculine energy. But as female entrepreneurs, we also want to have a balance of feminine energy. And that means that we don't necessarily push through all the time because our bodies are the literal life force of how we create in this world. And if we're disconnected from our bodies as female entrepreneurs, if we're pushing through and we're working against our bodies, we're neglecting true nourishment that our body needs from high quality foods. And then we're not using our number one tool to be able to create and build businesses that thrive in this world today. So let's talk about what actually happens when you nourish yourself properly, like the actual what happens on a cellular, physical body when you nourish yourself. You're not just eating well, you're actually stabilizing the very cells that are responsible for your creativity, for the mental clarity, for the emotional bandwidth, and also for the physical energy that you feel during your day. Nourishing food gives your mitochondria, those little powerhouses within your cell that create energy out of the food we're eating. They produce the clean energy, which keeps your brain functioning and online. It keeps your mood steady. It keeps your intuition accessible, which as female entrepreneurs is your little access to magic. And when blood sugar is stable, your nervous system stops running in survival mode. The calmer your internal world feels, the more powerful you'll show up in your external world, and in your work, and in your relationships, and in your decisions. Nourishment changes your frequency. A resourced body, a well-fueled body, expresses as a resourced, well-fueled leader. If you want to run a business or a high-achieving life with clarity and confidence, your food choices aren't just fuel anymore. They are your strategy. And most of you think your inconsistency, your emotional reactivity, the lack of focus is a personality flaw or it's something that is wrong with you. It's not. It's like your body, your cells actually asking for support, actually asking you for something else. And you can't show up in your business with authority and feeling grounded and calm when your mitochondria, the little guys inside of your cell that make the energy, when they are running on chaos and stress hormones instead of the actual thing that creates really clean, good feeling energy in your body. Nourishment isn't optional anymore. Nourishment isn't optional for leadership, for building businesses. Nourishment is your business. Nourishment is leadership. So what do I see happening with female entrepreneurs who are focused on scaling their business, but then they are ignoring nourishment that their body needs to create the growth that creates the business that they desire? Well, you end up feeling really disconnected from your body when you're not fueling yourself well, when you're just going through the day and responding to hunger, just feeding your body, trying to get through. What you end up is feeling very disconnected to your body. And this will also create disconnect to your business, to your family life, to your social life. And then that disconnect will lead to frustration and feeling out of control. And when we feel out of control, we end up trying to control more, which will look like micromanaging the things that don't need your attention and the things that do need your true intention that come from you, your genius, your authority, the things that you're really good to do, the things that you love to do and that really drive your business, they don't get your attention. So for example, if I am not fueling my body properly, what this will look like is that I will spend way too much time either on social media, perfecting a message, perfecting an email, instead of spending time with my clients and helping them grow their physical capacity for more in their life, instead of doing high level coaching, instead of doing the things that really move the needle, not only in my business, but in my clients' lives, which is where my genius lies. That's what I'm really good at. Writing emails, not the thing that I'm good at. Being on social media, not the thing that I'm good at. Part of my business, but not part of my genius, right? And so what will end up happening is when I feel out of control, I end up going to the things I feel least in control over, and I spend way too much time and energy on it, and it ends up to be crap anyway, where I could go in and when I have mental clarity, I feel calm, I feel grounded in my body, and things are flowing really well. Now I'm using the things that I'm really good at to produce like beautiful things in this world. And what we end up doing when we try to micromanage things that don't need our attention is that we end up leaving money, energy, and clients behind because we're focused on the wrong thing. It's hard to see in real time the connection between nourishment and this, but I guarantee you, if I sat down with you and we reverse engineered some of the problems that you may have felt in this last year, personally, in your business, in your life, in your career, I guarantee we will see the lack of nourishment in your physical body that leads to the lack of nourishment in the business and the life that you want to have. So, why do high achievers often treat their body like an afterthought when they would have never treated their business that way? Well, because we are stuck in control and micromanagement, and we believe that the way to succeed is with a head down process, right? We watched many people before us do this, work really hard, be the hardest worker in the room. And that also looks like leaving your body behind and working against your behind, and you haven't been taught how to work with your body, especially as a female entrepreneur. When you look at our history as women, there's not a lot that have gone before us. This is a relatively new thing. Like, it was in my grandma's era that she couldn't even have had her own bank account for a while, let alone run her own business, right? And so we are relatively new when you look at the whole evolvement of humans. We're new to feminine running businesses. And as women, we have so much wisdom in our body. And when we use that wisdom, we are able to generate the business that we really want to have in a way that makes sense with how we want to live our life. And when we're able to do this, it's because our body is well nourished and we can now listen intuitively to our body, which is where so much of the information that we want to have is currently living in real time, and we're able to access that and use it. So what happens when we don't make any changes and we continue to run against our body, not listen to it, not give it what it needs, is that we'll stay where we are, right? That's like the best case scenario, is that you just stay where you are if you continue to do what you're doing. And that's probably deeply uncomfortable. For me, when I think about staying where I am, even as a well-nourished woman, like, that is deeply uncomfortable. I'm always evolving. I always want to be better. I'm always learning and growing. And so my guess is, for you listening to this podcast, that probably sounds like rubbish. I'm not interested in staying where I am. But especially when you don't feel good in your physical body, I mean, what's the point if we're never going to feel good, right? And feeling like you don't have enough, that your capacity is small, that you don't know how you're going to keep going like this. And to be honest, it can get worse than what it is right now if you don't change how you're doing things. The fact that you know that your body isn't well cared for, or you aren't optimizing the body that you have, means that it could get worse than what it is right now. And this looks like being pushed on our ass from the universe. And when I say universe, you insert whatever spiritual practice you have here. You can use God, earth, source, whatever you want. I am not picky. Insert the thing there for you. But what will happen is that you will be pushed on your ass in a way that you don't want to be, in a way that is more life altering, versus when you listen to the whispers, not only from your body, but from the energy of the world, you get to pivot in a way that makes sense and move into more alignment in creating what you want. You get to make those subtle changes towards the well cared for body and well cared for business versus, being put on your ass by the universe. We've all been put on our ass by the universe before, and it's just not a great experience. We're like, I wish I would have paid more attention, right? And also the other side of diet culture, which is swinging way too far to the other side, which is that all foods are equal and that all foods are good. And this is true. And this is true in some sense, but many times we lean way too far that way. This is that black or white thinking, right? So food is just fuel. I have no relationship to fuel, to all food is fine. I can have everything. And both are true. Like, I want you to see that the answers that are very true and the answers that you want to live by are actually within the gray and in the middle of these two things. We want to get away from black and white thinking, because that's the thing that always keeps us stuck and cycling in the same cycle and spinning our wheels over and over again. It is true that all foods can be seen equally, but that doesn't necessarily mean that our body receives food equally. There are foods that were created by Mother Earth that were intended to create the bodies that function very well. And then there are foods that were created by labs and by humans who had ill intent that do not fuel the body the way the world and God has wanted us to be fueled. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. So we can take an approach from not making it mean anything about us, that sometimes we do eat foods that don't fuel us well. That doesn't mean that we're bad people. We just move on versus sitting in remorse and guilt and thinking, I've done something terribly wrong, right? That's not useful. And then we go into a cycle of restriction or going all in on, eating nothing that's quote unquote bad. And then we get sick of that. And then we eat all the bad food. And it's like, if you're tired of swinging from one end to the other, this is what I'm trying to tell you, is that that's not where your answers lie. And we can't use this as a way to eat Oreos and cookies and ice cream and try to convince ourselves that all food is equal and that it will give us the same benefit as something that was created from the earth that gives us a lot of high value into our body. So how do you really distinguish between diet culture's good and bad foods messaging and the reality that some foods genuinely support your performance better than others, right? That's a reality. The thing that I want you to know is that you get to be the decider of this. And I know in this world and as humans and with brains, we want answers. Just tell me yes or no. Tell me to do this. But my question to you and to reflect on that is how often has that actually gotten you what you wanted? It gives you immediate gratification and makes you feel like you're doing the right thing for a short amount of time. But that lasts 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks, right? And then you're back into the same cycle again. But when you go in and you decide, how does the food actually make me feel? Then you can start listening to your body. This is something that I do inside Mindfully Well, is that we have a very intentional first 30 days where we become very intentional and focused on listening to our bodies while we fuel it. Because again, your body has the answers. I don't actually have the answers in my mind that are exactly right for your body, but your body actually has all those answers. And that's what we access in those first 30 days. We do some somatic practices. We work with your nervous system. We do a lot of journaling of foods while we actually document your foods in real time. And we're asking questions that would normally trigger diet culture on purpose so that we can see what's actually lying underneath the surface. Because how many plans and protocols have you received in the past that last a few weeks and then you go back to your old patterns? That's because you've never brought up the diet culture conditioning. So we have been taught to eat and behave in a certain way in order to control our bodies. That is what keeps you stuck and spinning your wheels. Until we start to bring that to the surface and work on that and remove that conditioning, you're going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. So we build that into the practice while listening to our body. And then we create this beautiful thing of the mind-body connection that you deeply want and desire to have in your life. And when we do this, now you get to embody. And when I say embody, that means that you get to have this information not only in your brain, but also your mind. So think about your mind is outside of your brain. You get to have it inside of your body. And also you get to embody, which means you get to live out the experience, every single day without it being a working against yourself process. You get to, when you embody this, it becomes who you are versus you keep trying to take your body and to try to fit it into other cookie cutter things that somebody has told you to do or what you think is the right answer. And instead, we want to embody it. We want to bring it into our body versus trying to make our body to fit into something else. And when you do that, you get to feel it, you get to understand it, and your decisions now come from the embodiment and the authority of this practice. That means you're in charge. And guess what? It actually becomes very simple and not dramatic anymore. It gets to be like who you are instead of the constant struggle. So let's also bring the nervous system into this conversation because this is where it's all going to come together. So, how does true nourishment directly support a female entrepreneur's nervous system, her regulation, and her capacity of handling the stress of running a business? When the body is nourished, the nervous system settles down. When the body is not nourished, the nervous system is always going to be dysregulated in either a heightened or a hypo state. So that means you're in fight or flight or you're in a freeze or fawn state. Because food, nourishment, and fuel are the body's number one forms of safety, as well as body fat. So when we start to play with these and take them away, these will always heighten your nervous system, which means your body doesn't feel safe. When your body doesn't feel safe, nothing else in your life really works out very well for you. Whenever I'm coaching somebody, I always want them to know, like, we can't just go in and micromanage your day-to-day stress, right? A lot of my coaching is around the nervous system and around stress. And many times someone just wants their stress to be better. And I'm like, listen, I want your stress to be better as well. And we're going to do the things to do that. But we can't ignore this part of your physical body. If we're not going to address the foods you're putting in your body and listening to your body, we're going to keep running to a wall over and over again. It's just walking into the wall over and over and over again, right? Your nervous system will not reach regulation or give you a whole lot of control over regulation if nourishment isn't actually happening inside of the nervous system is such a trendy thing right now, which I love. And maybe it's just my algorithm because it's, Instagram knows my language. I love the awareness around it, but you can't go in and try to regulate that nervous system with breath work, with meditation, with journaling, with any sort of tapping, like anything that you find online that you're like, oh, this is the thing that's going to make me feel better. And yeah, it might make you feel better short term, but long term, that doesn't happen until the body is well nourished. The nervous system will always respond first to true nourishment of the body's needs, meaning whole foods, meeting the body's caloric needs, meeting the body's micronutrient and macronutrient needs. And all of those needs need to be met in order for your nervous system to regulate and for you to feel calm and in control with your body. And so if you're somebody who is struggling with like mental clarity, having low energy, and it's impacting your day to day to be able to function well, to be present with your family and your life, your social life, but also growing your business, then we know that your body is not well nourished. We know that your body is lacking high quality fuel. That should be the number one thing that you look at, because just because you're eating doesn't mean your body is nourished. Just because you're not hungry doesn't mean your body is well nourished. We have to remember there's far more at play here than just eating because you're hungry. Just grabbing a bar to just kind of bridge you to the next 2 hours, grabbing another protein bar or another protein shake to get you through this meeting. There are needs that your body has, and we have to make sure that we're meeting them. The way that we do this is through whole foods that come from the earth, high quality protein that comes from animal sources, also the earth, listening to your body, blood sugar stability, making sure we're eating all the macronutrients in a well-balanced way. So blood sugar stability. It isn't super high science. It isn't a math problem. It isn't looking at your Apple Watch and deciding how much you get to eat today. It's not looking at MyFitnessPal and thinking I've been good or I've been bad because these little circles are red or they're green. It's looking at the actual quality of what's going on or what's going into your body in a blood sugar stable forward way so you can intuitively hear what your body needs. We all want to be intuitive eaters. I think that that is a wonderful goal, but we don't get to be intuitive eaters unless we're going to focus on blood sugar stability. That is the honest truth. And with blood sugar stability, also meeting the caloric needs of our body. So let's make this practical, because I know some of you are listening and thinking, I don't have time to think about this. MyFitnessPal maybe will be the default to say, I don't have to think about it. I'll put it in this app and that feels good enough. Well, I am in my coaching practice. Some of my clients do track their macros because they find it very helpful and useful for them, but not until we've learned how to be more intuitive in listening to our body. And you may be thinking, I don't have time to think about this. I don't have another thing that I can do right now. But here's my hard coaching moment for you. You can pretend to think that you don't have time, but in fact, you always have time for what you really need. A body always has needs. Your body is never going to stop having needs. So my suggestion is to stop pretending that your body doesn't have needs. Stop pretending that you don't have needs, because you can't get any further without taking care of this thing first. So what do we actually do in real time? I'm going to tell you 2 things. First, blood sugar stability. You're like, Jesus, woman, would you stop with the blood sugar stability? I'm not going to stop. I will be in my grave when I stop. This means that every meal you have should have protein, fat, and fiber with your starchy carbohydrates. Starchy carbohydrates are the things that are your typical carb sources. So pastas, breads, fruits, those kinds of things that will raise your blood sugar. When your blood sugar, and those are great to have, we want to have them. Your body does prefer carbohydrates, especially as a midlife woman. Your body needs carbohydrates to function really well. But we want to eat them with our protein, fat, and fiber so that our blood sugar is stable. When your blood sugar is stable, your insulin is stable. And also, if we want to talk about hormones and perimenopause and midlife, insulin is the precursor to your other hormones. And we can't go in and micromanage hormonal balance if we're not going to focus on insulin, which means we're not focusing on blood sugar stability. Those things have to be there. And when insulin is stable, now you're able to hear your hunger and fullness cues throughout the day. Second, stop pretending that processed foods are whole foods. We have got to stop finding ways to pretend that processed foods are healthy. I'm talking about more than 1 or 2 servings of protein powder, not paying attention to the ingredients in protein powder, looking at high protein foods and thinking that it's good enough, not spending time on food preparation because we think it's a waste of time. Instead, how is this giving you so much time back? Because when your body is well cared for, now you have energy to do the things that you want to be doing and need to be doing inside of your business. You have mental clarity. You can speak well. You can focus instead of spinning your wheels most of the time during the day on things that are taking you longer than they should because your body doesn't have energy because you just had a protein bar for breakfast again. When you start doing this, you get to feel really good in your body. When you start to do this, you get to have mental clarity. You start to have not only physical energy, but emotional, mental, spiritual energy. And now you open yourself up to be able to create more of the thing that you're really desiring to have in your work, in your family, in your business. Nourishment is not a waste of time or another thing that you have to do, but a thing that gives you so much time back. It collapses time in some ways. And because of the time it actually gives you back when your body is well cared for, not only in your day to day, but also think about the trajectory of your entire life, right? When your body's well cared for, I think the argument is out there that you live a longer, healthier, more fulfilling life, right? So not only that, it actually does give you real time back, but you get to basically like collapse time in your day because you're moving so fluidly and efficiently. So, if you take one thing about this relationship between nourishment and your capacity to build a business that you love, it should be this. You do not need another strategy right now. You do not need another business tactic. You do not need to post more on social media. You don't even need to hire a huge team. You need to eat your meals. You need to focus on whole foods, and you need to think about how food is actually the thing that you are missing. True nourishment is the thing that you are missing. So now you can go out and do the things that you want to do. And listen, I know the holidays are here. It's the first week of December, and this is when nourishment completely goes out the window for most people. And when the nervous system is already heightened with all the things to do, and you're dealing with family dynamics and travel and all of the things, I created something specifically for this season. It's called the Holiday Survival Kit, and you can grab it for only $29, and you get it all the way through all of December. This is not about restricting during the holidays. This is not about being good and taking out all the sugar and not having some, like, let's be honest, not having some moments of blood sugar instability, but giving you a little kit to help you feel more stable and grounded throughout the holidays so that not every day feels like a blood sugar roller coaster. And also, we're going to be learning how to regulate our nervous system, maintain nourishment, set boundaries, all of that during the holidays as well. And so this is all in one little package for you for only $29. You can head to the show notes or you can go to the website mindfullywell.com/holiday. All right, my friends, that's all I have for you today. True nourishment is the foundation of everything you're trying to do. So let's put some more intention behind that and watch your life grow and thrive and be so beautiful. All right, my friends, I will see you next week.